Good day, everyone. I'm Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Geary Cast, the Malaga fan podcast for all the Gearys out there. After losing just one league game all season, Malaga have lost twice in the past week, both times in the Valencia region. Following a 4-2 loss at Levante last Wednesday, Malaga spent their Sunday afternoon losing 2-0 in Castellon. On this week's review podcast, we'll be looking back over what went wrong this Sunday at New Estadi Castellia as Malaga were the losers once again. And speaking of losers, here are two people who, just like me, enjoy spending their free time talking about Malaga Club de Football and playing podcast. It's my Geary Cast co-hosts. How are you, Nick Bell? Sorry for calling you a loser.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm very well, cheers. Thanks, Matt. How are you getting on?
I'm all good. And I feel like it might have hurt Luke Chambers a bit more. We call him a loser. But how are you, Luke?
Evening, gentlemen. I feel quite like a loser for the first time as a Malaga fan in a hell of a long time. We've been on quite a run, but I'll accept this one, Matt. We're all good.
Yep. Excellent. We'll start with I was going to say positives, and then I realised it's not actually that positive, really. Luke, how did our other teams get on first this weekend?
Well, we'll start on a positive. So a good weekend for Malaga Femenino as they got back to winning ways with a 1-0 win over Castellon. A goal from Alicia Martinez. So that's 3 points taken to 6th in the league. Malagueño, however, as we spoke about off air, had a very Malaga first team kind of feel to their result. They drew 0-0 away at Torreperogil, apparently. But Malaga do stay top of the league, 2 points clear of Real Jaén.
Okay, yeah, that's very unlike them, isn't it? There's usually goals and events in their games. I can't really remember them having a 0-0 this season. And even more of a surprise is that man Chupete not scoring any goals or getting the red card. Or actually, was he suspended?
Yes, he raised a good point.
When I started speaking, I was like, oh yeah, he was suspended. Yes, but I'm sure he might get a mention again a bit later. But first of all, apologies. Life gets in the way sometimes when we're, as I to quote, playing podcast. And we didn't do a review/preview podcast last week. So we didn't really talk about the Levante game. Maybe that is for the best. Although I think it's fair to say, Nick, that we all enjoyed the game as a spectacle. Perhaps if we weren't Malaga fans, we'd be gushing over this game. Did any quick thoughts on that game?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as a game for the neutral, it had everything you'd ever want from it, especially on a Wednesday night. And he said, us being losers, there's a multitude of people that could call under that bracket when you're watching Spanish second division football on a Wednesday night. So, but we enjoyed it, and it was brilliant. It was different football to what we've seen from Malaga recently as well, which I thought was quite interesting. And it's just a shame about the result because I think we did go toe-to-toe with a team that are performing well this season, ultimately. They're up there for a reason.
Yeah, forgive me for being rude here. I did not say the result. It was 4-2 to Levante, for those that don't know, but it was sort of on a knife edge for a bit. It could have been 4-2 Malaga. It could have gone either way. And yeah, fair enough. They probably deserve to win. Luke, any quick thoughts before we do a quick chumbo and Biznaga of that game?
Yeah, just to be honest, uncharacteristic night for the Malaga defence, who's been so good all season. I just felt, like you've just said, it could have been a 9-9 game, basically, so that many chances, and a lot of it were our own downfall, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'll start off the Chumbo and Biznagas then. I think I'm going to answer for the three of us here, but feel free to defy me. Chumbo, Rocco Batterini, he's not very good.
Seconded.
Third. Here.
Done. I think we've covered Rocco enough. It's the same things we've said before. Go back and listen to previous episodes. Biznaga's a bit of an interesting one, though. I'll tell you mine. There's one player in particular I was going to talk about a bit more later, but David Larrubia was mine. He looked super powered again, and he was brilliant. And I'll give my honourable mention to Kevin, but I think perhaps we'll talk a bit about Kevin later. And also an honourable mention to Alfonso Herrera, who even conceding 4 goals was still brilliant. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to go with one of the two that you've already mentioned. I thought Kevin had a very fun night. It seemed to be like Kevin of the Kevin that we want to see and the Kevin that we know we can get. I think he's been reserved in his performances sometime this season, but this was very like the arrogance of him sometimes was just something you want to applaud. But ultimately, I have to agree with you. Larubia he's on a different level at the minute. He's the Larubia that we've been wanting for, and even when we're not winning games, the influence he's having in an attacking area which is so lacking for Malaga at the moment as well. He's a welcome distraction from how shit our strikers are.
Yeah, and I think there'll be more David Larubia chat coming up when we talk about the Castellon game. But Luke, any different for Biznaga?
No, I totally agree with what both of you said. I'll give it to David Larubia, but honourable mention to Kevin. Like you said, he were a complete shithouse, and that's when Kevin is at his absolute finest. He wants to take people on, he wants to showboat, and hey, I'm here for that. We don't see this anymore.
Yeah, when Nick said, you want to applaud it, I don't think the Levante players or crowd were applauding it. They were furious with him. But yeah, that's what went on last week. Just before we talk about the Castellon game, sort of lots of bits of news coming in this week, so we'll hammer them out here. I think before we pressed record, one of you guys said this is a story is going to come up for weeks and months and years ahead. What's happening with the new stadium and where Malaga are going to play. I know we dealt with this topic a few months ago now, but it's sort of come back in the news this week that it's very unlikely now that Malaga are going to build a new stadium away from La Rosaleda. If it's going to be if we're going to have a new stadium, it's going to be renovated. La Rosaleda is going to be Nuevo La Rosaleda, or Nueva, I guess, La Rosaleda. And yeah, the idea of the athletic stadium on the edge of town, that's come up again, Nick. I don't know if we need to cover anything else because we talked about it being a bit of a logistic issue.
Yeah, it's got its troubles. Obviously, they're talking about capping it at like 20,000, which again, for us, more fair weather fans, for want of a better word, the ones that are going to be popping in occasionally, to watch a game, not season ticket holders, it's going to make it harder for us to get tickets to watch games. But aside from going all the way to Granada, there isn't really much alternative. We're not tripping over Stadia, unfortunately, unless there was a way to maybe repurpose the basketball stadium, an indoor football ground. How mad would that be? But I don't know. I don't think basketball stadiums that big, are they?
No. Yeah, when you play Malaga that season, you have to bring a six-a-side team or whatever.
Masters football. We'll enter Masters football for 2 years.
I'm all for seeing Kevin playing indoor football for a couple of seasons. He is made for that. Although he might take a few injuries hitting the cork floor. Luke, it has to happen, but it's not great either, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, I think I was reading the Malaga Council and some sporting director kind of thing are basically saying we cannot be in La Rosaleda when this work's being done. They're all but confirming that, saying they would like to pause the work whilst the game's on, but they're saying in terms of health and safety and everything, it's just not doable. The athletic stadium, I don't know if anybody's seen the pictures of it, but it's basically one dome on one side, isn't it? Yeah, and then what is it? They're bringing 3 portable stands in. I think that's the idea. I suppose if it's a solution other than Granada, but as Nick says, I don't think anybody's too pleased about this.
Forgive my ignorance here, but I think the numbers being mentioned are 22 to 25,000 in the athletic stadium. 25 seems a bit ambitious to me. I don't think Granada Stadium's much bigger than that. I think that's in the mid to low 20s. So
I think if doable,
that one as well, isn't it? Getting to Granada a lot for the fans and stuff. And then Real Zaragoza were going to do it. They were going to build like a container ship stadium, weren't they? To completely demolish La Romareda, but they've kind of gone back on that. And they're going to do it bit by bit now. Obviously, I don't think we can do that because we're going to be building a 3rd tier. So it's going to be a bit similar to like what they're doing at Barcelona and what they've done at the Bernabeu. You can't build with people in the stadium, unfortunately.
What about we're right by the sea. There's lots of ports in the area. Why can't we do like they did in Qatar and build that stadium out of what do you call it? Cargo
I think our Qatari owner tried to build something out at sea before, didn't he? That's where it's all gone ticked up from the start.
Well, this has led
And
us
that stadium was movable as well. Maybe we can rent it.
This has gone perfect.
Or maybe we can get, just for maybe the stand behind one of the goals. Remember at 2018 World Cup where they cut the hole out of the stadium? I think it was at Rostov.
Yeah.
And they just had that stand of about 50,000 seats going through the back of the stadium. That'd be fine.
The strange thing about this is just based on socials and so on. A lot of Malaga fans, when Malaga were bidding for the World Cup, were like over the moon. We're going to get this stadium, we've got it. And it's like, without me being a scientist and a mystic med, I'm thinking, yeah, but this is going to cause Malaga football a lot of drama. Now you're seeing it on socials. They're hammering it, saying it's costing the club money. We're having to relocate. And it's like, these are simple things, what was always going to happen.
Just for the record, I just want to make it clear that Mystic Meg's the complete opposite of a scientist, Luke. She's very much.
I'm on my second tea of the day.
Council meetings.
I get my words mixed up.
She's very much a vibes woman. Anyway, speaking of Qatari stadiums and Qataris, our favourite Qatari is, as he emerges from the shadows of social media every now and then. He's really gone for it this time. He's I think I've got the tweet here. I formally request the Spanish and Qatari authorities to investigate the campaign of incitement and threats directed against me. I demand justice and protection of my rights. The evidence of this campaign of incitement includes serious acts such as hate chants, explicit threats, and burning of national symbols. These images and actions cannot be ignored. And of course, I definitely do not sort of support the burning of national symbols and things like that, but it does feel a little bit dramatic.
It's very dramatic. It's a bit like when you've got a family member on Facebook who's just ranting. Yeah. I think that's what maybe the Emir of Qatar feels like from time to time. When he's like, "Oh,
well, you buy a football club, you put yourself in. I'm not saying there should be like personal attacks and violence against them, but I think the thing he shared was the video of the photo of the sort of mock funeral of the club. Dying, and God knows many football clubs fans have done those mock funerals before. It's that's just.
I mean, it's not like it's a secret that he's not exactly liked for what he's done in previous years, anyway. But it always makes me wonder on the end of his tweets where it's like hashtag Malaga fans, hashtag justice for Malaga. Like the only justice if you off, if you know what I mean.
Yes. It's the big thing for me, and I imagine it can only be motivated by money. But at what point, do you, in the nicest possible way, do you not get the hint? Do you know what I mean?
The simple life is away from Malaga for him. Surely, why do you want the hindrance?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't want peace, I want problems, type thing, and it's just like just do what you need to do, sell the club for whatever you want, and then just walk away, live your life peacefully. You know what I mean? Enjoy yourself.
In a way, obviously, I really, really want him gone out of the club. I've got to admire his stubbornness in a way. You think, he's at breaking point, but he never is. He's always hanging in there. And then perhaps just the last bit of news, and again, sort of, I don't know, it sort of caught me off guard a little bit. It's sort of a bit of injury news that obviously we've talked recently about the return of Ramon, and, I'm sure we'll talk about him shortly. But obviously that story's gone alongside what's happening with Hightam. And obviously he's played some minutes off the bench earlier in the season. And then it's come out this week or the past week that he's had, he's chosen by sound of it, his choice to have another operation to try and just fix things. I think I saw the word clean up used with his right knee. So, and they've said there's no time frame on this. Luke, do you think, I don't know, it's all speculation really, but do you think you will see Hightam this season?
No, I felt like they're a bit of a statement involved in the messages what they put out, but it's just a real shame again. I mean, it's kind of like we did with Ramon. You half forget that they're actually at the club still, which is really tough as a Malaga fan, because effectively Hightam is one of, if not the best player of the club if you can get 10-15 games out of him.
Yeah. What do you think, Nick? Because I personally think the way they said there's no time frame, that implies not happening this year.
I think we'd be surprised. I think it probably might seem before the end of the season, maybe. But it's one of those whether you risk him or not, whether you just let him get a year and another year under his belt, maybe. But 2 years on the sidelines is a long time for a footballer not to kick a ball around. Do you know what I mean? So there's rushing people back. There's also not letting someone rot, for a want of a better word, and through his own choice, obviously. But I think he'll be chomping at the bit to get back as quick as he can, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember it all, but earlier in the season, the minutes where he did get, I didn't think he even looked right then.
No, he didn't.
Being completely honest,
he was blistering. It was. I can't remember. It must have been maybe 2 or maybe perhaps even 3 weeks ago. Now it was the 1 year anniversary of the draw in Ibiza and his equaliser, and it's like so good. Such a shame. Like that was the week he got injured as well, wasn't it? Like in training that week, which is a real shame. And you go. Let's cheer ourselves up. Let's talk about us losing to Castellon. Let's go in. Yeah, to be fair, we haven't had many dreary podcasts this year. In a way, it was almost like I wonder if some people thought the only reason we didn't record last week is because we'd thrown our toys out the pram because we was in the game.
Wait, we didn't?
Yeah, we really didn't.
We went on strike. That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
We only record when we win. We only sing when we're winning. We're only podding when we're picking up 3 points and drinking back.
I'll be honest with you, looking at this 11, there was going to be some changes, playing 2 games in a week. So the changes were Romani coming in for Kevin, who picked up a bit of a knock in the Levante game. Well, he got kicked all over the place, really. Castellon came in up front for Rocco. Still Dione not getting his start in place there. And Luismi was back after, I think he was suspended for Levante, wasn't he? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't play. It feels a long time ago, that Levante game, but no complaints from me, really. I guess the one, I don't know, maybe 2 contentious ones is Romani and Castellon. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
We're hoping for Antonito. I want to see Antonito every game that we've got him. That's if Kevin wasn't fit, which clearly coming off after, I think it was 50, 60 minutes in Levante. Yeah. Castellon up front, I don't know. I think we could play Keith Bell, Paul Henahan, Carl, anyone up front, and they'll do a better job than our strikers currently.
For those that don't know, they are listeners to this podcast.
I was going to say, note how we weren't mentioned, Matt.
I see you as more anchormen in the engine room. Yeah. Great strikers, by the way.
Yeah. I ultimately I agree. I think I would have preferred to have maybe seen Antonito start because I think we've not seen him start a lot recently. That's the other thing that gets me. Romani and Kevin seem to be and Lebete that are the chosen ones at the moment, and you don't want Antonito to lose that momentum that he's got, which I think he is starting to. You know what I mean, or he has. Dare I say?
While, to be honest with you, not that he's playing badly, but I think. I think I'm right in saying he hasn't started a game since the start of October before he went on one of his international breaks.
Yeah.
I'm certain he's been good when he's come on. I think that momentum already is gone, like, to be honest with you.
It's like
I don't know what that's about, though. Sorry.
Sorry, Nick. It's like whether he's leaving or not, I think we need to enjoy Antonito whilst he's here. And we know how much of an impact he had early on in the season when they basically gave him the ball and said, "You're our top boy, try and win us the game." Now, like Nick says, it just comes across as a bit of a bit part player getting 20 and 15 minutes. I mean, he got 5 minutes in Levante, I think it was.
Yeah.
I don't really always understand the thought process. I know there's relationships and stuff like that behind the scenes that get taken into consideration, but if you've got a player, even if you know that he's going to leave or he's in contract negotiations or something like that, it can happen to anyone in the Malaga squad. And so you've got to use them whilst you can. And if you're telling me that on their day that especially any of the 3 strikers are utilising or sometimes Lebete or Romani in the form that he's been are going to bring you more than what Antonito can do in a short period of time, then I wouldn't really agree with that. for me, ultimately as well, pace for the strikers. I think he just picks them out at random. I generally don't see the rhyme or reason for our striking situation at the minute. It's like he's going, well, if I use this one this week, maybe that one will work. And he's not really putting any thought process in it. I know we had a good chat about this on I think it was Sunday evening, going, he's not solving the problem, the striker. He's sticky plastering at the minute. He's just putting somebody there to be a body, to be there. Do you know what I mean? Which effectively means you're playing with 10 players. Whereas if you had a coach really that is more of a tactician rather than a, for want of a better word, a vibesman, a culture coach, he'd be looking at how do I get the best out of maybe two up top there, or do I play, like I say, play Antonito through there, or do I go with a false 9 and get my wingers to be more of our attacking players? It seems to be that area of the pitch for us is our downfall at the moment, and he's not addressing that problem. And because we don't have a Roberto, and I think when we lost Roberto around this time last season, we had a similar problem. Do you know what I mean? That lack of goals, that drawing games, that tail off in form. So that's worrying for me going into what is a busy couple of months.
Just really quickly, since we've talked about him, it's perhaps worth mentioning that Antonito has sort of spoken about his future, because obviously that's been a topic we've discussed on this podcast. He was at what was it called? La Asociación de Periodistas Deportivos de Malaga, which essentially is the Association of Journalists Awards. Malaga won Best Sporting Achievement for their promotion. By the way, this is local journalists, because I think the best, I forgot the name. Ayub Gadfa was the big winner, the boxer that got silver medal in Paris, because they're from Marbella, so shout out there. But he said in the award ceremony about the goal, I watch it a couple of times every night, don't we all? When I go to bed, as time goes by, I realize what we did. But then they asked him about his future, and essentially he did say "Que sera, sera." He said, whatever happens will happen.
Yeah. What else can you say?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't exactly.
Sorry to interrupt, Matt. Just going back to the awards night. That must be some awards night. Malaga's Tarragona night, the promotion, the boxer you just mentioned, Unicaja's amazing season. Like Malaga's rocking, or has been rocking.
Yeah, I wasn't dismissing it at all. It's I think the Malaga players there, I don't know if there were more, but the ones I saw a photo, it was Antonito, Alfonso Herrero, and Lucas Sangali. They were the three I saw photoed with the award. So I don't know if others were there and they were just the most photogenic ones. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So
we all know Kevin were vibing somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin was celebrating with the boxer on Ayub's on his shoulders. Anyway, so yeah, I agree. Though I'd like to see Antonito giving a go up front. But let's go back to this game. I think it's fair to say, guys, probably for the first half hour, we were second best. Luke.
Personally, I think Castellon took control very early. And I don't mean in terms of peppering shots at our goal or anything. They just looked a lot more structured. Their attacks were a lot better than ours. Malaga really struggled to get out of our own half. Yeah. Again, without Castellon really troubling Herrero too much. I just think we lacked a bit of concentration in this game.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Nick?
It's classic Dicky Tacker, isn't it? You know what I mean? We've seen this already before. We saw him do it last season to us twice. It's the way Castellon play. They control the game, they control possession, and they'll just grind you down, and they won't give you an opportunity to get a foot on the ball. And it was like that from the minute go. And as Luke says, they weren't playing with any massive amount of intensity. They just did the good stuff well, and they just didn't give us a chance to get involved. Really, it was a bit of a pushover, to be honest, in the first half an hour.
Yeah, it was so. Do you know what I noticed? I noticed this in the Levante game, and I was sort of saving this for the podcast. That it's not a big thing to say, but I've noticed the last two games, our first touch is horrible. It's like every time we hit a ball at someone, unless it's David Larrubia, although he had his moments in this game. Well, you know, I'll talk about two things with him. But yeah, it was like at the start, and in Castellon, they would get a ball back off us, like miscontrolling it. And then they would like do a triangle and they were through at our defense, or, taking a shot at Herrero. Yeah, they were all over.
the first touch, what you're saying, Matt, again, then leads to the amount of fouls what we're currently giving away. For me personally, the refereeing hasn't been great in the last 2 games at least, but Malaga just seem to cause themselves so many problems. Just to chuck in there, Matt, obviously you went to Castellon last season. The atmosphere in the ground sounded so, like, early on you could hear the Malaga fans, the Castellon just really grew in, and I'm sure they didn't stop singing all game.
Well, I haven't even put it on the agenda, but I think I put it in our WhatsApp group. I really want to know what the Popeye the Sailor Man song was. I was loving that. I was wondering who they were singing it about. Yeah, like, obviously, I perhaps didn't notice it so much when I went last season, the atmosphere. I remember it being good because obviously I was with the Malaga fans, but when obviously I went to Castellon in the home end the season before to watch the legend is Pablo Hernandez, and I was like, oh, it really, because I didn't really know that much about Castellon that time. I was like, oh, this place is rocking. And it's, yeah, really good fans. I really like Castellon as a team, actually. Yeah. Like, we haven't said it, I quite like their shirt with the lack of sponsor as well. Quite clean, very clean.
It looks great.
Well, because obviously I watched the game at home for the first half. I was making some notes. I don't know what some of them mean though, but I've got Herrero save, of course. Pastor headed chance. Don't really remember that. But the other thing I forgot about, and I do remember this, the guy that was on the wing for him, was he called Brian Capalenga, I think?
Yes.
He did a tribute. He did a tribute to Renato Sanchez and passed to an advertising board. Did you notice that? Yeah, there's like one bit where he turned to his left and the advertising boards were like black and white. I'm sure he did, like, because you saw his face go, a nice tribute act to when Renato Sanchez did that for Swansea, which seems a very long time ago when that happened, and he passed to a Carabao sponsor. I'm just delaying it, guys. Let's mention it. Castellon's goal from Van der Belt. What a great name for someone to smash a ball in, because it was a belt. Great goal from him. He was a nice, tidy little player, actually. But this is where I was going to flag up, and I'm not going to say this again. David Larrubia gave the ball away a bit cheaply when we look to have recovered it. But, you know, that's the only negative thing I'm going to say about him on this podcast. Good goal, or just lacks nuke? Because I said lacks, I couldn't say Luke. Lacks.
I thought we were versing together then. The new.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But, yeah, you said it perfectly then, Matt. We gave the ball away so simply. Larrubia could easily just teed it off to Victor Garcia, who could have played the ball down the line, but for some reason decided to try and nutmeg his player. Why are we doing that in that area? I don't know. But take nothing away from Van der Belt. When the ball did come to him, he didn't half give it a belt.
Yeah. So I suppose that makes you Lick. So Lick, what did you think of the goal?
Well, we're well versed now with what it takes to beat Alfonso Herrero, and it's always got to be something pretty spectacular. But I tell you what, there's just nothing better from seeing a goal like this being scored outside the box, pile drive, nice and low, bottom corner. Fucking, I was applauding in my front room. I was going, well done, lads. Fucking, that's a belter.
There was one lovely camera angle right behind it as well, where it was behind the player, and you saw it like curl away from Herrero's hand. And like you said, you don't beat him easy, because again, I don't think we need to talk about him so much in this game, but he was good again in this game. Alfonso Herrero, he was still making maybe not as the eye-catching ones as usual, but lots of good saves. I actually think though, after that goal, or certainly for the last 10 or 15 minutes, we were pretty okay. I thought we were pretty good. I've never been like his biggest fan, but I was very impressed with Carlos Puga, especially towards the end of the first half, where he just seemed to be taking them on and then crossing it. And Sergio Castel was, I don't know, about 3 yards behind his cross all the time, to the extent where Carlos Puga looked quite angry at halftime. Do we want to give Puga some love? Am I right to give him love?
Yeah, you really are. Again, like you say, Matt, for me, we finished the half very strongly. Probably the last 5 minutes, I saw it was the 40 minutes before that. I thought, to put it bluntly, we were poor. But the last 5 minutes, Malaga sent up the tempo a little bit. And Malaga played best when we play at tempo. We just don't play at tempo too often. I like the thought of Castell when we signed him, but he just doesn't offer anything. He's literally on par with Rocco for me. It says it's now December. He's got 1 goal, I think it is.
Yeah.
So saying that, I think between him, Rocco, and Dione, what's that? 6 goals between them. 4 months into a season. That for me, that's our big problem.
Do you know what I do to defend him a little bit? I'm going to defend him by saying actually I think he's quite good defensively. Like especially if we bring him off the bench at the end, I think he's quite good at doing that. And in this game, I don't think it was a lack of effort. He just looks like a yard or two off the pace. And again, like the ball did go to him, it bounced off him, and it was lack of control. So
he fouls so often.
Yeah,
I know strikers do tend to give the fouls away, but his touch and everything, the amount of fouls he gives away.
And I think you've already mentioned it, and I don't know, I watched it on Spanish TV, so I don't know if it had the same sort of graphics and stuff, but they did put just before halftime the amount of fouls on the corner, and I think we were like 15 and they'd had like 1. It's like it was something like crazy. We did seem to foul a lot. Any closing comments on the first half, Nick?
It's one of them. I think, like you say, we were chasing shadows for the major part of it. I agree with exactly what you said about Puga, and to be honest, I think he was the only sort of bright spark we had for large parts of this game. But I think that the Castellon mindset is, after they get that goal, is to take a bit of a step back. It's like a step back and breathe moment for them. They don't always go for that second goal straight away, and we saw that last season with them. You know what I mean? So I think it's a bit of a
control.
Yeah, it's a bit of a false sense. We looked like we were getting back into the game for like the last 10 minutes, but were we? Were we really, or were we just being lulled into a false sense of security by fucking Dick Schroeder, our bloody my new nemesis? I'm going to call it out here. I'm fascinated by him, but I
think he's great.
A very good man.
Nick, you saying you hate Dick?
Yeah, I'm saying I like it. but also like the same thing. I was going to mention this whole, going full throttle and taking a rest. It's become very fashionable this season, thanks to another Dutch manager who is currently top in the Premier League, because that's what he's being praised for, isn't it, Arne Slot? Yeah. Doing a bit of Kloppian football, but then slowing it down. And maybe Dick Schreider's destined to head to the bright lights of the Premier League one day. He was linked with, he was linked with Stoke, wasn't he? Because he used to play at Stoke, if I remember rightly. I think it was Stoke he was at.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know he was linked with the move to England in the summer.
To be honest with you, I know I don't want to go back over it now because we've done it on podcast last year. So go and listen to our Castellon podcast last year. They're a really fascinating football club, I think, the way they run with what's his name? He's got a nickname. I can't think of his name. I know his name Bobby Vulgaris, isn't it? Like, who's got money in, again, I knew all this last year. One of the
poker player, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's invested. I always forget the A team.
He's got an NHL team as well, hasn't he?
He's very, for those that have read lots of articles about Brentford and data analysis and things like this, Castellon are very much sort of the Brentford of the Spanish pyramid at the moment, and they're
going places. There's no stopping them. They'll be in La Liga within the next 3 years. Yeah. Without I'd say I put my mortgage on it, but my roof's caving in. But yeah, they'll be in La Liga, and once they get in La Liga as well, they'll be there for a while. You know what I mean? So I think they're just on that kind of trajectory at the minute.
It showed their intent in the summer. I think they signed a player from like Anderlecht or Club Brugge or something like €3 million, and as a newly promoted team into Segunda. I mean, that's quite a statement.
There you go.
Swinging statement, that.
I'm going to say, what's the year? 2025 next year. Let's say 2029. I'm looking forward to watching Castellon v Brentford in the Europa Conference. I can see it now.
Mystic Meg's back out again.
and there is, by the way, if someone types in Castellon Guardian article, you'll probably find the one about their chairman. It's very interesting from last season.
If everybody goes back to the preview of Castellon, beginning of last season, the first game, was it? I'm pretty sure it was a cracking read up about it.
And also one of our great podcast titles last year was Dick's Picks, which was one of our...
I thought that were Alex Ashmore's.
Anyway, moving away from
Dick's Picks where he left off.
Moving away from Dick, Let's talk a bit more about Malaga, who actually weren't dicks at the start of the second half. I thought they started the second half quite good again, and Carlos Burga carried on playing he was dynamite down that, down the sort of right wing, perhaps more so than most of our wingers sometimes. And actually, I think it might have been you, Luke, in the WhatsApp group that made a really good point, and I hadn't really thought about it till he said that we don't seem to win any headers or anything aerial in the box, which is a bit of a shame for, like you mentioned earlier, Nick, as well. We've got all these wingers, and when we don't have someone who can get on the end, really.
No, it's as you said before, they just appear to be 2 or 3 yards off the pace of Ayu, and that could be a mix of a multitude of things. We've got really quick, zippy wingers who are maybe just a bit too fast for them, or we've got Bocadia eating carpentry making and playing Croatians to get on the end of them. That's what I mean. It's something that's not adding up. That's my problem with it, which is why I would say you either need to go with 2 so they can help each other out because they're just running around for no reason up there, or you play false 9 and you get those wingers to become your attacking intent. And that's maybe where I think someone like Castellon could thrive, with his back to goal, feeding it in. But if he didn't have a touch like he's made out of fucking elastic, then he'd be fine.
Yeah. I thought we started okay. I think our substitutions were quite good. I know we touched upon Antonito playing in this game. He came on at half time. I think, did Dione? No, Dione came on sort of into the game a little bit.
Later, about an hour, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm looking at the subs here. I don't remember Rocco coming on. He came on for Pastor, didn't he, actually?
Yeah, late on. Yeah,
late on. And obviously Kevin came on. I guess we haven't had a chance to talk about him yet. The one I haven't named there is Ramon came on. He made his comeback the previous match day, the Wednesday game at Levante. He came off the bench. I think he was more impressive against Levante. I thought he was very, not saying he was spectacular, but he looked like Ramon against Levante. I think he did a bit here, just a little bit more low-key. What have we made of Ramon's return, Luke?
Yeah, for me, over the last week, a very negative week for Malaga, but the one positive is Ramon's return to the field. And again, against Levante, he had a lot more of the ball. Remember, a good defensive bit of work where he effectively sprinted 30 yards back and won the ball, which we all know isn't Ramon's. He's not exactly the fastest of players, but in this game, I don't think he had too much of an impact at all. But I also think that this change could have come 10, 15 minutes earlier. I remember texting you guys in the chat and just noticing the huge gap in the centre of the park, not just from Castellon, from Malaga. And I really feel that if we could have got Aaron Maloney on the pitch and Ramon at the same time, we could have got straight back into this game. But I mean, it brings Ramon on when we've just gone 2-0 down away to Castellon. When it's gone 2-0, is it one of them where you just think, right, get back, Ramon, let's save you for the next game? Or it's just a change what I felt we could have made a lot earlier.
Yeah. Any comments on Ramon, Nick? Apart from obviously, it's a delight to see him back.
Yeah, it's really good to see him back, and from limited viewing over the past 2 seasons, it's you see he's got the talent in there. I personally thought, especially in this game, he looked a bit timid. I thought he looked scared, and as if maybe there's something in the back of his mind where he thinks, shit, if I do something too over aggressive or if I do something which is overexerted, I'm going to get injured again. And that's my main worry for him. It's not his physical injury he's got to get over now. There's bound to be a massive mental injury for him and Hightam. Do you know what I mean? To be able to get over that and to think I can actually get through these games and perform at a level that I am capable of without putting myself on the treatment table. So I agree with what Luke said. This isn't the game to bring Ramon back on for, in my opinion, when you're losing 2-0 down against players who are possession merchants. And that midfield for Castellon were excellent throughout the entire game. I actually thought it was a bit unfair on him, really. But that being said, the games are coming thick and fast, and it's Almeria this weekend. And, again, that's the midfield. You probably don't want to put him on against either. So when do you go? That's the only maybe different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, and speaking of Almeria, check out our preview show later in the week if you're listening to this now. The only other sub I haven't mentioned, and you said Luke, one of the positives come out of this week is Ramon. For me, the positive is Kevin finding his Kevinness again, which I know we touched upon already. He wasn't quite as perhaps electric and fun in this game, but bloody hell did he wind them up. I don't know if the foul count was crazy. I think I made a note here. Like I said, it was definitely around 14-1 at halftime. Like we'd fouled 14 to their 1. By the end, it was 17-11. I would bet, I'd say 9 of those must have been on Kevin. He was kicked everywhere. And I just realized I'm gonna throw this out there now because you've just reminded me with a comment you just made, Nick, where you're talking about our wingers. I don't think it was a game at home a couple of weeks ago where I left the stadium, went to Barcelona, Madrid, and I must have been Chris I was talking to. And I said, I've just had a bit of a revelation. I said, Kevin's not actually fast, is he? I was like watching him, and he doesn't actually go that fast. And I've noticed it all the time since. He's, for a winger, because in my head, he's like a nippy little thing, but
I've thought this for ages. This is where I've once used the similarity of Jack Grealish. He'll bring the defender in, draw the foul. It's very, very rare you see Kevin driving past the player, but I totally agree what you're saying, Matt. Kevin, this week, I mean, when he came on, again, the fouls, what he got is there were fouls in good positions. And this is where the text, when I said about we don't win any headers in the box, I dare say if you're really sad in life and you want to watch the last 10 minutes of the game again, nothing happens. But the amount of crosses Manu Molina puts in from free kicks, I bet there were maybe 8, and Malaga did not even challenge for an attempt.
And I don't think we've talked about this either. I think we've probably touched upon it a couple of times, but I generally think, obviously, I don't watch every team in the league, but in regards to like corner takers and things like that, Manu Molina and Antonito, there can't be too many better in the league. They're so good at them. And it's a shame, like, we're relying on Nelson Monte to just keep scoring his first goals of his career to get on the end of them. I don't know. Do you want to say anything about Kevin, Nick?
Yeah. He's got 9 legs. Does that help? He's I agree with you on that one because, like you say, you look at him and you look at his build and you think, yeah, he's going to be rapid, but he's actually not. He's got that low center of gravity, which I think's more in his favor, and quick feet, and those are a devastating combination if you can get him on the right player.
Well, this is how good a week he's had. Have you seen what he's done to one of his doubters this week?
No.
So, friend of the podcast, Christian Makowski, very much a Kevin skeptic. He went to some burger restaurant, or the burger restaurant, which Kevin's been advertising recently, and had the burger inspired by Kevin. And I can't remember his description, but he said, like, it's absolutely dripping, a bit like our winger Kevin. I think Kevin's won him over this week.
I'm sure I remember seeing Christian Makowski tweeting about Kevin, and it wasn't as dripping and as nice.
It was later. No, he just I think he's enjoyed Kevin this week. If no one see it, the bit of skill where he, it's a bit pointless, where he balances the ball on his foot, does a step over, and then
I think that's good though.
Me too. I don't mind it.
It's not like you were taking the way, like, if we spoke about it, it's as if like he's had the ball on his foot for like 3 or 4 seconds. He basically brings the ball down, does his man, and then gets fucking nailed for it.
But also, like, by that bit of skill, he completely slows the ball down, and then what you want to do is to accelerate fast, isn't he?
It wasn't like the great shithousery of Antequera in La Rosaleda last season, where he basically built a castle on the ball.
You got to cross it.
I was just going to say, I hope he sips on the ball again. I hope he does that this weekend.
It's like, just going back to what you said, Matt. When you think about it, we are not a very quick team whatsoever. And when we do lose Antonito, there's not too much pace anywhere on the. I dare say our wing backs are 2 of our quickest ones, whether it's Puga, Joaquin,
Puga for me is
basically, guys, I wanted to just keep talking about Kevin because I can see on the agenda coming up Castellon's second goal. I don't think there's much to say here. They counter-attacked, they hit it across our box, quite a bit of a tap-in. I think I put it in our WhatsApp group that I wish we would do this a bit more. There was a few times, particularly Levante, I noticed with, and I really like Levante, but where we get sort of behind them and we could just whip it in first time, but we try to not walk it in, but get a bit closer. And I'm not saying that's bad, but just every now and then do this pass, because it was inch perfect, to be fair. It was a good pass, but what are we saying? Good goal and not great defending, or what?
Yeah, it was poor defending, but I think it was just more about us trying to get forward the ball, and again, Castellon have done that thing where they just click and they go, right, well, we're playing football again now, and just took advantage of us. And could Alfonso Herrera got out a little bit quicker? Maybe. I'm not going to blame him for this, because he pulled off a spectacular save not too long before that.
I think whether the centre back was, or maybe the right back, sort of gestured to go for it and didn't, and I think that sort of threw him a bit. I don't know.
I think the goal came from, again, the centre of the park. We were so open. The ball went into their player who were playing as a number 10, and the move, what he did, it's a very, very simple move, just to turn on the ball like that. But I do believe there's only Aaron Ocho Maloney in our team who's got that technique to turn a game so quickly. The rest of it just sent simple. It was a good goal, but it sent very simple. One-touch football.
Yeah. So just before we go to like Chumbo and Biznaga, guys, is there any incidents or anything else you want to bring up?
Not really.
In particular.
Shall I sort of take a shortcut for us again and say, Chumbo, it's Sergio Castellon, isn't it?
I've tried to go a little bit off park purely because
bit like Sergio Castellon.
He's generally shit. He's shit, and I just want to mix it up a little bit. So I thought Victor, I didn't think it was his best game. Okay. I didn't think Manu had a very good game again, and we don't seem to play well when Manu's not playing well. He's that pivotal in our team.
I'm going to be totally honest and say I didn't really clock Victor at all in this game.
No,
up for set pieces, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
My Chumbo is exactly for the reason what you've just said, Matt. I didn't notice this player was actually playing, especially until half time. And it's a shame, because I think in recent weeks it's been good. But Levante, the 65 minutes run, I just can't remember him doing anything. Like, it was literally, I saw the team at half time again and I thought, oh, fuck, Levante's playing. So yeah, unfortunately it's him, because he's been much better lately.
Yeah, I think the thing I noticed with him the most was when Castell was doing sort of pressing, Levante was like the second one behind him, and then they were both being passed over, and that's Levante. I didn't think he was too bad, but yeah, I can see I wouldn't really be that defensive of him either. Any different, Nick?
No, I think the ones that you've mentioned are all warranted nominees, but I think I'm probably going to have to go with, in fact, the one that's not been mentioned was Romani. And I thought maybe he wasn't as, I think he was back to his usual, was probably the way to describe it. I think he had that one good week recently, but he didn't really do too much to excite me. And it's never a good look to get hooked at half time either, but I think Castell probably just pips him for Chumbo. In the fairness of things.
All right, so I've got my two Biznagas written out here, and I'm wondering whether my honourable mention of my Biznaga, whether to switch them. So I think I'm going to stay where I am, because I wrote it after the game, so maybe it's a truer reflection of my thoughts. But I've mentioned Carlos Puga already. I thought he was brilliant. But apart from that pass where you give away for goal, I thought David Larubia was brilliant again. He's like supercharged, and he seems to have learned this skill, because obviously he's he's a very slight man. Obviously he's probably got a bit of muscle on him, I'm sure, but the thing he does with his hips, he seems to he sort of swings his hips around, and like the defenders can't really follow him. And actually I think after we conceded that first goal, he seemed pretty determined to make something happen for us, and so I'm going to stick with him. I'm good. I think he might be the first double Biznaga in one episode, but it's very close between him and Carlos Puga. So for me, they were the only two I could really. And again, honourable mention, Alfonso Herrera. He made some good saves again. Nick, Luke, I asked you first, didn't I?
You nearly forgot the script then, Matt. The honourable mention for Alfonso Herrera, which he was also voted the fans' Biznaga for the game. But for me, I thought Puga were great. I thought him and Larubia on that right-hand side were our only outgo. Again, absolutely loving this Larubia form. he's just got an air of confidence about him at the moment, and he works his absolute bollocks off. But same as Puga, the engine that he's got, he does not stop running up and down. So for me, this week it's Carlos Puga.
Cool. Yeah, I think that was the one I was thinking, shall I change to? Because he was really good fun in this game. And, I always say I'm more of a Joaquin man, but if Carlos Puga can do this, I've not seen Joaquin play like this in a very long time. So I'd stick with Puga.
Has Carlos Puga been a surprise to you guys? I mean, we signed him from Atleti B as a bit of a why, but I think he's improved a lot.
Yeah, I'd say those two. Like, I have no problem with either of our right backs. If I see one on the team sheet, I'm not like, oh, why isn't he playing the other guy? They're good.
Yeah, I'm very much a Puga man. Like, Joaquin's good as well, but Puga just brings you something. He's a bit more determined, and I think actually in this game he was playing the role of two players. I mean, I think Levante was spending a lot of his time drifting inside and not really helping us offer that width, especially with them playing with wing backs as well. Whereas Puga seemed, not just determined to be defensively minded, but also, as per usual, making those driving runs up the right hand side and putting crosses in. So,
Puga as well. Have you noticed he doesn't do it all the time. He loves going for a nutmeg. Yeah. He loves that sort of trying to
all the more reasons to love him. But I think that's what you get from Puga. He's I don't know whether we would call it old-fashioned or not nowadays, or whether it's like maybe one of these Trent Alexander-Arnold types, maybe with a bit more meat on him. But he just seems to want to get his head down and run and go, I'm going to drag my team to the other end of the fucking pitch so it's as far away from my goal as possible and get across it. And I can't really ask for much more from a right back than what he offers.
Isn't the old word for boxing pugilism? So it's a bit. He's like a pugilist. Yeah, definitely. There's a podcast episode in there, a podcast episode title in there somewhere.
I think we've used that word before.
We've only done it.
I think this has come up because I've not got the intelligence to know the word pugilism, but the chimp in my head banging the drum is like, you've heard this, Luke.
There's definitely a podcast picture out there with Carlos Puga's head on like a 1920s boxer. I'm sure I've made that one.
When you said like an old school thing, that's when I went pugilism, old boxer. That's how my mind worked. I don't know. Did you say your Biznaga, Nick? Was it Puga or?
Yeah, it's Puga, and an honourable mention for Herrera as well. I thought his backbreaker was really impressive. Sort of like he must have leapt about 6 foot off the ground into the air to save that attempt. I don't know if it was going in, but it was a fucking brilliant camera save, and I kind of felt him when he hit the ground as well. Like when we're men of a certain age now, we're in our 30s, and sometimes it's a bit difficult for us to get out of bed in the morning. But when you hit the ground like that, my whole body went, "Oh, Alfonso!" No.
Hey, another bit of the body when I don't know if you guys seen it. Obviously, you're watching it on Spanish TV, Matt, but it showed you a replay when Herrera took a goal kick and he fell. I shat myself then because I thought it was going to be the old in the hamstring or the groin or something. I mean, we've got a great replacement in Carlos Lopez, but nobody's Don Alfonso.
Well, he was having a go at himself on the floor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
And just quickly, I realized I don't think we've mentioned this on the podcast we didn't record last week. La Liga Hypermotion Player of the Month too.
He is.
He should be every month. He should be every month.
Yeah, so keep that up, and let's finish with that. We're the real winners this month, even though we've lost twice. We've got the best player in the whole of Spain. I'm going to say, even though we're in the second division.
Nick, only Matt Harrison can start off calling us losers and finish by calling us all winners. It's as if it's scripted.
It's a waxing lyrical thing, I think.
And there you go. That is. A winning podcast, I would say. So we will wrap things up there. We'll have the preview show later in the week. Check that out, which won't feature me. So, I don't know if anyone's going to be called losers or winners. We'll see. But I will say thank you to you, Luke Chambers.
Thank you very much, mate. Not very often we talk about defeats this week, but we keep the positivity. Vamos Malaga as always.
And we should say, I will see you on the weekend. And
I'll say thank you, Nick Bell, and I'll see you on the weekend.
Looking forward to it already, mate. Cannot wait to get out there and see you both at the weekend. It should be a good one. It's only second in the league, former La Liga team, absolutely killing it this week. It'll be fine.
As well, yeah. Yeah, and I'll say thank you to you guys, the listeners, and maybe the viewers, and come and see us too on YouTube if not, and subscribe and follow us and go to our Twitter and our Blue Sky, because we're winners now with Blue Sky thinking, etc. But yeah, you'll find us. Type in Geary Cast places, you'll find us, and we'll see you soon. Adios and vamos Malaga.